Hello, brilliant entrepreneur, and welcome to a very special episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is a special episode because we have Kerry Rowett, one of my favorite mindset practitioners, sharing a special message with us. This is a reading that she specifically did for listeners of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. In the interview with Kerry and her reading, I shared a couple of ways that you can follow Kerry and find out more about her. And I will have some extra resources and links for you in the show notes. This is episode number 445, which means you can find those links and resources at tashcorbin.com/445. Kerry has also provided a written summary of the reading, and we've got that there for you as well. Let's dive in. Hello, I'm Tash Corbin, a business strategist and mentor based on the Sunshine Coast in Australia. The mission of this podcast is to help heart-centered entrepreneurs to make more money, and in doing so, change the world for the better. This podcast was recorded on the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi and Jinnaburra people. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. We have the spectacular Kerry Rowett here, and Kerry was a speaker at Heart-Centered Business Conference earlier this year, and Kerry has tuned in to the energies of 2025 for our audience specifically, and has created a reading for us for 2025, which I'm very excited about, covering the key energies and how we can tap into and harness them. Welcome, Kerry.
Thank you, Tash. I am so excited to be here with you.
Oh, so good. And have I explained that accurately? Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Absolutely. And so I am intuitive, and so I'm able to tap into people's energies. I activated this ability via Reiki. So this is not exactly just Reiki. It's not like if you go and learn Reiki, then automatically you're able to do this. But that was one of the flow-on effects for me, that I got this like next level access to my intuition. And when you do Reiki too, you do actually learn how to tune into other people's energy. And the way you learn it is you're tuning into one other person's energy. But the way I work with this is I will also tune into the energy of a group. And I've been doing this for many years for my newsletter subscribers and on my podcast at times as well. So if you go to my podcast and you find a healing or something like that, you will see that I am saying this is for every listener. So I'm tapping into the energy of the whole group. So this is for you specifically, and it is for the collective. And so as you are listening, I want you to really actively decide if you want to take on these energies, then you are going to do that. So this is not a passive process where I tell you what's available for you in 2025 and you sit back and think, well, I will wait and see if that happens. Instead, you decide, I do want that. I do want to step into that. That does feel really resonant for me. And then you act accordingly. But I am going to give you some very specific examples around that as well. And I know that Tash will chime in as well with examples that come to her. So let's dive into this. And the main energy for you around 2025 is around meeting the moment that 2025 presents for you. And the key word here is time. And so what I was hearing is it's time. It's your time. There are like no time like the present. Time is of the essence. It is your time to shine. And so in 2025, the energy feels very ripe for you to step into an entirely new level of confidence, self-belief, and success on your terms. But you have to decide. So if you're hearing that and you're thinking, well, I felt like that before, or I'm not sure, is that really going to happen? You need to decide that I want this to happen and I'm going to do what's within my power to actualize this, to make it happen. You can't be wishy-washy about it. It is not a passive energy. So do you want to step in? And we are going to go deeper into those opportunities that are available for you and exactly how you can capitalize on those. Now, within this episode, there is healing woven in as well. So as you are listening to some of the things that I am saying and thinking about this idea of it's time and it's my time and I'm stepping in, you might find that some things are activated for you. That might bring up some fear or some doubt or some worry or some questions. And as you are listening, just know that those energies are being shifted for you and harmonized so that you can come into greater alignment with the highest opportunity that is available for you here. And each time you listen to the episode is going to do that. And so if you feel a lot of alignment with what it is that I'm sharing in this episode, you might want to come back and listen multiple times. And every single time that you listen to this episode throughout 2025, it is going to have an impact. And what will be really interesting for you as you listen, like later in the year, maybe you're listening for the first time and it's September 2025, you'll be able to see how, oh, some of these things have been playing out for me. And that's really interesting to observe that as well. So this podcast episode, it's a portal for you. It is a portal of healing. It is a portal of possibility. It is a portal of opportunity, and you deserve it. You are worth it. It is your time. And it is your time to shine specifically as who you are. And the way to think about this is that being you, it is the point of difference. So what you do, and the way you specifically do it with your neurospiciness, your specific challenge, whether that might be being a single mom or being a member of a marginalized group, having a chronic illness or having caring responsibilities, like that is all essential to who it is that you are. And we need to see you. Like it's time for you to show up and to be seen exactly who you are. So I want you to think about that specific context that you have or anything that might have held you back. And when I was feeling into it, the message I got was there is a shift coming and you can achieve a breakthrough around this in 2025 in terms of achieving a greater level of success in the form of success that you actually desire in 2025. And I'm so well aware that I am saying this as someone who is able-bodied, in good health, I am white, I'm someone who does have a lot of privilege. And so as I'm saying this, I am definitely not downplaying any genuine challenges that you are experiencing. This is not a case of like, just do it. I know you've got those things going on, but just give it a good go and just try a bit harder. Like that is not it. It is not an energy of overcoming. It's actually more so an energy of acceptance, of really deep self-worth, of knowing I deserve this and I am able to find my way to create exactly what I do desire. And so in 2025, there is this real opportunity for you to understand that your unique strengths, your specific challenges, and the ways that you do things differently, that is very valuable for other people. And you need to be, or you have the opportunity to be, louder about that. And so this energy that I'm describing, as I was tuning in, it actually then reminded me of a podcast episode that you published quite recently at the time of recording, Tash, the surprising things that contribute majorly to your business results. That was episode 45. And so you spoke about, like, I have this chronic health challenge, and here is how I have turned that into a superpower. You know, this is how I have been able to thrive, including the fact that I have that. I have ADHD, and this is how I've been able to thrive. So I wonder if you'd like to speak to that before we move further.
Oh, I think that's really powerful. And actually, as you were sharing that first part of this reading, I could visualize very specific people from my audience that I've had this conversation with before, or I know that this is something that I would love to see more of from them. And so I've got goosebumps all over my body just even listening to this. I just need to say that at the outset. And it does absolutely feel like you have like found the right message for this audience. Like that is absolutely something that's been part of the conversations as we get to the end of 2024 and step into 2025. And then, yes, like my workarounds of how to run my business in less time because of my chronic health condition are now having flow-on effects of benefits to my audience because I've found ways to run my business more efficiently and I can teach that to my audience. But also something that I see from a lot of people who are trying to kind of position themselves as an authority or as an expert is that they feel like they need to do it perfectly or be perfect at something in order for other people to respect their strategy or respect their positioning or, see them as an expert. But actually, the more you come across as, do it perfectly, I am amazing, and I don't have any challenges, the more it makes people in your audience feel like they have to be perfect as well to be able to achieve what you've achieved. And so I am even in the last year, much more vocal about the challenges that I face and the mistakes that I've made. I've always been someone who's mistake forward in my messaging. Like I'm definitely not perfect. And the more consistently that I speak about that, I feel like the more I am helping others in my audience to realize that there's a way for them as well. And even though it might not be the exact way I am doing it, the fact that I have turned that into an efficiency, or I've turned that into part of my message, or I've turned that challenge into something I can help others to adapt around, means that I am actually far more valuable and useful to my audience, and I can actually support more people who are experiencing those same challenges or similar restrictions. So yeah, I absolutely love what you're sharing. And if I could create reassurance for my audience that showing up imperfectly and sharing the mistakes that you make and showing people that you don't get it right every single time, but still you're moving towards your goals, like that is absolutely what your audience needs to hear from you and see from you in order to believe in their capacity to benefit from your experience and your expertise. And so we don't need to have the glossy shine all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there is enough of that for people who want that. And if you are feeling like that is the way, that is probably because that is what you have seen modeled. And so you think that is the way to succeed. And I need to do that way so that I succeed. But as we're going to delve into here, it's very different to that. It's actually you being willing to be the model for what it can look like to do it differently with any specific challenges or limitations, with the fact there are mistakes along the way, with the fact there may not be the massive team or all of the other things that enable someone to show up in a way that does look picture perfect, with the exact right messaging, posting the exact right amount, with all of the exact right marketing strategies and so on. It's like, no. And so you give other people permission. And I think we need to stop assuming that everyone wants to learn only from the people who look like they've got it all together. It's kind of making me think about like the big names, right?
Yeah.
And instead, truly owning, and I think we can give lip service to this, but truly owning that what I have to offer here is so incredibly valuable to my audience.
Yeah. I love that.
Coming from that energy. Right. So we're going to talk through 3 specific ways that you can work with this energy of it's my time. Number 1, it is time for you to be seen and heard. So you can hear how we're going to be drilling into the very specifics of what we've already started to touch on here. And so as I was tuning in, I was given the example of video. So maybe you don't like doing video, or indeed even showing photos of yourself because you have certain judgments. So you are too shy, or you don't like some aspect of your appearance, you're too big, you're too small, you have fears about being judged, you have imposter syndrome, you're not as put together today, like whatever it might be. And so 2025 can be the year that you decide, I'm doing it anyway, because you really own how valuable it is that you show up and you take up space as someone who feels this way. And owning that, like that gets to be woven in as a part of your message if it's appropriate to your audience. And then you know how much that benefits others who hold back because they are seeing you doing it. And they are seeing you owning exactly who you are. And so when we're talking about it's time for you to be seen and heard, maybe you're already nailing video. Maybe that's not the example for you, but I want you to feel into what does being seen and heard the next level look like for you? Is it speaking? Is it events? Is it more around your marketing and being willing to be like what you might have felt was too salesy? But instead, you decide, no, I need to really share exactly how I can help my people because I own how valuable that is. And I want you to do it in a way that's really affirming of some of those challenges that I also experience so that you don't have to have a different experience that makes you feel worse about yourself. I actually feel like I'm channeling you right now, Tash.
You really are. I'll use this as a chance to jump in and say that as I was hearing this from you, I know exactly what it is for me as well, right? So like I have no problem showing up on video, no makeup, no, right, whatever. But I do know there's an energetic barrier that's been in place for me before and that I've been doing some work on and will continue to with Kerry next year around it's not safe for me to be seen by industry leaders because a lot of the work that I do points out the flaws in their strategies or why their strategies aren't built for marginalized people or aren't built on consent-based practice. And so a lot of my work around teaching consent-based practice and teaching strategy that works for marginalized people requires contrasting it against other strategies that may not be in that realm. And a lot of the time, those strategies are used by people, big names in our industry. And so I do have this like little fear that one of those fancy big named people is going to see some of my content or hear me say something and think I'm singling them out or think that I'm criticizing them in some way, and that's going to result in some kind of, vacuous negative impact. I don't even know what they would do that would make me feel like, unsafe, but it has previously felt unsafe. So that like it's my time to be seen and heard. For me, it's a specific audience that has not heard me before, but also my focus on unconscious. It's only just been coming to the surface for the last kind of 18 months, but my unconscious desire to stay out of viewpoint of those people means I'm also out of viewpoint of others because I'm keeping myself in this little safe space where I'm only really talking to people who already have some awareness of consent-based marketing or that other marketing strategies feel somehow misaligned for them or not inclusive enough for them. So, yep, you definitely were like straight in between the eyes for me. Thank you.
What I have written down in my notes is we're creating a shift next around energetically taking up space. Isn't it just so perfect that you just said that? And so just placing your hands at your stomach area, solar plexus, and we're going to be using some Reiki here. And there's a big dose of permission coming in. And this is permission for you. And it's like giving myself permission to just do it anyway. So we're all going to have these blocks, these limitations, these stories, and like we can follow them down the rabbit hole and back to childhood and through our ancestral line and back into 75 different past lifetimes. And also we can decide in this moment, yeah, I mean, it's hard to take up space and I'm going to do it.
When you first told me to put my hand on my solar plexus, I felt like I was going to throw up. And then I just had this like big wave of like goosebumps and everything calmed down. You are so magical, Kerry.
Cleared very quickly. Okay, that's cleared quickly for everyone, actually. So you can release your hands now and let's move into number 2. And it's related. It is time for you to let go of the fear that holds you back. And so this is particularly around speaking up. It's like I knew what you were going to say, Tash, which, by the way, I did not. This is around speaking a message, your truth, and knowing that the more you do this with more clarity, the more your people get to benefit. And when I say your people, we really want to make sure that, like in Tash's example, I am not just speaking to the people who I know who are already on board with this message, because like we know there can be this sense of fear of what other people think. There is this really strong people-pleasing element that can come through, this energy of wanting to be liked as if we could control that. But if we play it safe, we feel like we're somehow like doing a good job with that though, because we're less likely to upset people or disappoint people or have feedback on our messaging. And we are far more focused on those people than who it's actually for. Now, if somebody does give you feedback, you can just respond to it. If the feedback's inappropriate, you can just block it. And so sometimes we just get stuck at this point of, oh, something's going to happen. Oh, I'm scared, or I'm going to get attacked. I'm going to get these haters. And it's like, if that were to happen, what would I do? Oh, I could just block. Okay. If there was a deluge of that, my post went viral and I'm getting, okay, I would get somebody to take over the account and they would just do the blocking for me. I don't need to see that, right? I will just find a solution. So I just really want you within this to own your ability and own your power in finding a solution around this. Like you are not a victim in this situation. And so within that power, you would be able to find a pathway forwards. And so we want to take up space. We want to speak from the heart. And yes, we want to do this with boundaries and energetic protection. And on a practical note, I find that quite a lot of people in my audience, and I 100% know that it is the same here for your audience because I was tapping into this, have got a lot of codependent patterns. And if that is the case for you, you need to actively address that, because we can't achieve our potential while our highest priority is trying to please other people or trying to keep ourselves safe from other people's responses or reactions or from our projections of what it is that they might think. So I have so much more to say around that, but I'm going to move on. So I want you to ask yourself, what is the real message that is on my heart to share? And I want you to decide that this is the year I just share it anyway. If I need support to do that, I get the support I need. If I'm worried about something happening, well, I can create a plan in advance around that absolute worst case scenario, and then I've sorted it. It's okay. And so we are going to do a little more healing here, though, around releasing this fear. So just placing your hands at the tops of your thighs. We're just doing some shifting for the base chakra right now. It's around, fear, insecurity, instability. And Tash, I can see you're bursting to speak. And so tell us, what is this making you think about right now?
I'm not necessarily bursting to speak, but I'm just like, nodding actively in agreement, but I did have a little message that popped into my head. So I'll share it because it's probably helpful. And that is at conference when Leonie Dawson did her presentation, her beautiful channeled message, the message that resonated really strongly for me and keeps landing in my head over and over again is, and I'm going to butcher this, but she said something along the lines of, the morning bird doesn't sing its glorious morning song and then stop and check how many likes it got. It just sang it because it was born to do that. And it just knows that the joy of singing and sharing and being itself is its purpose. And so I think that like really lands here as well, that sometimes it's like, I'm just going to do it anyway. It doesn't matter if it gets lots of likes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to have an instant impact on the growth of my audience. It doesn't instantly need to go viral or do those things. It is the process of sharing and speaking up anyway that kind of creates that long-term momentum and that magnetism, because the more that you are like deep in, I do this because I love it, the more people want to bask in that energy as well. Yeah.
People can absolutely feel that energy. And I'm glad you raised that, because I'm just feeling now that the other piece to this is there are people who are like, I am not worried about going viral. I am just worried about no one's going to see it anyway. So what does it even matter? And this is actually how you get to be seen, is by sharing from the heart things that do really resonate for other people. And of course, we're not going to be doing that thing where we're checking or judging based on that, but it's showing up like you mean it. It's sharing like you mean it and letting your words find their way into the hearts of people who need that message. And maybe you would create some visualizations around that, or you can really start to imagine that that is what's happening. You're writing a message and you are imagining people finding it and receiving it, and it's the exact message that they need. Or you are imagining that one person or that group of clients, and this message is for them. So finding your way to come from this really beautiful heart-centered space when you are sharing. Because if you're sharing from an energy of, this is such a great message, but no one's going to see it, so what is the point anyway? That could be self-fulfilling. Okay, number 3, it is time for change. And you have the power to create it. And so you've got this opportunity in 2025 to ask, what is the change that I want to see? And know that you are the specific person who needs to deliver this message. So you can see how these messages do interlink. It's a lot around speaking up. It is a lot around your message. And the change feels to be more likely to be in your own life and have an impact within your own world than to relate to things that you cannot control, like world events, politics. So what is the change I really want to see in my business is a really key question you can ask. What is the change I want to see in how I show up, in how I share my message, and remembering that my point of power is within me. And so how do I want to use that power? Activating it and owning it, not pretending that you are not powerful and that you do not have the ability to create that change that you desire. It's coming from an entirely different place. It's not doubt. It's not uncertainty. It's an energy of, I am going to figure out how. I have the capacity to figure out how. I have this capacity to create change. How is that one landing for you, Tash?
And it's, I have the capacity to figure out how, but also I have the capacity to access the resources, and I deserve to provide myself. Oh, I got goosebumps all over, like those resources as well. I think for a lot of my audience, there is this sense that I need to figure this out myself in order for it to be valid, or I need to I have to go through that grind or whatever it might be. But actually accessing the mentorship or the resources or the support mechanisms or the shortcuts that get you to that part sooner, if you look at it through the lens of the impact that you have and the people's lives that you are changing, there is nothing in that makes it less valid or valuable. And actually, you're getting to that impact sooner by choosing the easier pathway or choosing the more resourced pathway. And I think we have idolized that like hustle and grind, and I did it myself and I bootstrapped it and I did it without spending any money on ads or whatever it might be for so long that it's hard to let that go. But I really do. That's something I got very ranty about at conference this year. And I really do believe that actually giving yourself the resources and like not having to justify it, but just knowing that that's what you need to move forward is critical. And that's often the difference between how marginalized people approach it versus people who've been centered their whole lives. People who've been centered their whole lives are gifted those resources, have the privilege of those resources, and they don't hesitate to use them. Whereas for people who've been marginalized, it's like we've always had to do without those things. And so that often becomes like a badge of honor. Look, I did it with this dodgy old computer, or I did it without having a mentor who helped me skip through the stages, or someone who, shared me with their audience, or those sorts of things. So yes, you have the capacity to figure it out and work out your how, and you have the capacity to access those resources, and you deserve those resources.
And to even take that a step further, it's understanding that how you're going to do it is with support.
Yes.
I really think that is faulty old thinking, exactly as you just described it. I get to work with a lot of 7-figure entrepreneurs and have done for many years, or people making multi-six figures. And I get to have a lot of peers, same as you, who have very substantial businesses. I don't know anyone who has done that without investing, without deciding they're going to receive support. We can look at that and go, well, it's all right for them because, I don't know, they've got this certain level of privilege, or they have got this turnover in their business. But I've also seen a lot of people have done it in ways that are scrappier, or where they have been resourceful. They haven't invested beyond their means, but they have still made the substantial investment. They haven't thought, oh, I'm going to pull it all together by listening to podcast episodes and free downloads. That's just not it. If you can't invest thousands now, maybe you can invest hundreds. And it's like trusting in your ability to discern what is the next kind of support that's going to help you to move the needle.
Yes. And a great tangible example of this for me when I started my business was I saw people who were part of $20,000 masterminds and $15,000 masterminds, and I desperately wanted to be part of that, but I did not have the funds. But I had people who were peers with me that I met through Facebook groups and other courses that I'd done. And we all wanted to be part of one of those things one day. And so we actually did a peer-led mastermind with the express intention of all of us by the end of next year are going to be ready to invest in a paid mastermind that's going to really be an up level for us. And so we even did it without spending anything. We just tapped into the network of each other, but we were very specific about that intention. I didn't end up joining a $15,000 mastermind, by the way, because that peer mastermind actually gave me what I needed and what I thought was going to be this magic thing up there. And it helped me to see, no, that's me waiting for someone else to spotlight me. That's me waiting for someone else to rescue me. I have it all within. And so the very process of doing the free version actually showed me I didn't need that big deluxe version. There was something else that I needed at that point in time, which is actually to hire a team member. And so it's just that, like, what's the next one? And then that buys you the ticket to the next one, and that buys you the ticket to the next one. And it also helps you to get that clarity of, well, is it a $10,000 thing or nothing? Or is there something that is accessible to me and it is my pathway? Yeah. So good, Kerry.
I really love what you've shared there. And I think that can be so romanticized in the space. And people will think they are making that big move when they do the big investment. Now, a big move is not an event like paying $10,000 or paying $20,000. That is not a big move in and of itself. It's actually what you do with that. And I've seen, and I'm sure you have seen as well, there are times where people have overinvested. It can create so much chaos for them. It can cause them so much stress, or maybe it didn't even cause them stress, but it just really wasn't that great. So we don't want to over-romanticize that. And going back to what we said earlier around that picture perfect, like sometimes when we are in this space where we kind of want to be rescued, we want to find the secrets, we want to skip the steps, and we want to get like this really high level of support that's going to like skyrocket us up there. That is actually not the thing that is required. And yeah, we want to be working with people who are those few steps along. And that really brings it back to you and you showing up as you and really claiming your power and your ability to work with those exact people who you can really serve. They don't need to be doing sometimes this investment or that investment. You might be the high level investment, and that's great too. But do you hear what I'm saying? It's like really owning your place in the ecosystem wherever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But if you are sitting back going, oh, but I'm not this and oh, I'm not that, you are not creating that compelling case for your audience. Either you're not saying this is actually the next step. This is an exceptional next step. So stop holding back. This is all around this energy of it is your time. So let's go back through those specific ways that you can work with this energy of it's my time. Number one, it's time for you to be seen and heard. Number two, it is time for you to let go of the fear that holds you back. And number three, it's time for change. And you have the power to create that. And so I'd just like you to place your hands at your throat to complete. And just taking some deeper breaths here as you allow all of this energy to integrate. And now asking yourself, how will I choose to show up throughout 2025, knowing that it is my time to shine? And releasing your hands. And we are complete.
Oh, just gorgeous, Kerry. Thank you so much. I love that so much. Now, if people want a dose of this on the regular, please do make sure you go and check out Kerry's podcast. I'll link to it in the show notes of today's episode. I'll also link to that previous podcast that Kerry mentioned about the surprising things that have contributed majorly to my business growth. And Kerry, where's the best place for people to follow you as well?
Best place to follow me is on Instagram. I am at Kerry Rowett.
Perfect. And we'll link to your Instagram profile in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, Kerry. And I also just quickly want little testimonial, but I also just quickly want to say, like, this group work that Kerry does and this like group readings, I have experienced them in small groups. I've experienced them in a course that Kerry ran previously. And it's like every single time I listen to that message, it's like it was one-on-one. Like it was exactly the thing everything that I needed. You are so powerful and so magical. So thank you so much, Kerry. And if anyone has any follow-up questions from this and or they want to like dive into working deeper with you, I would recommend, number one, listen to the podcast. Number two, we'll link to Kerry's Instagram and website. And number three, go and see what Kerry has on offer, because there are some spectacular ways that you can work with her. Thanks, Kerry.
Thank you so much for having me. This has just been such a joy.
No worries at all. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.